Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get started. Thank you everybody for tuning in. My name is Allison Bowman. I am the Administrative Assistant for the Arts Council of Johnson County. And today we have a great panel of professionals in mental health and the arts that we will be talking to about the intersection of arts and the mental health. Joining me today, we have Susan Rome, who is the Deputy Director of the Johnson County Mental Health Center. We have Aaron Ross, who is a Children and Family Services Team Leader at the Johnson County Mental Health Center. We have Brittany Noriega, who is a Johnson County artist whose work is featured in the Resilience Reflection Rebuilding Artists Respond to COVID-19 exhibition that is currently at the Johnson County Arts and Heritage Center. And we also have Sherry Jacobs, who is a licensed art therapist from Heartland Art Therapy, and is also an artist that's featured in the Resilience Reflection Rebuilding exhibition. So before we get started with our panel, I just want to talk about the exhibition very quickly. We have to give credit to Devin Graham, who curated and put together this show of work from different artists around the community. Local artists were asked to create a reflection of their experiences and feelings during the COVID-19 pandemic, and how they consider the pandemic to be a catalyst towards change. And then they submitted their artwork, and we installed it at the Arts and Heritage Center. And the partners that helped us with that was the Arts Council of Johnson County, the Johnson County Arts and Heritage Center, and the Johnson County Museum. And we're just very grateful for all of the support that we've had through this exhibition. And it is free to come see safely from a distance. It's also a virtual exhibition through January 22nd. So starting our panel discussion today, I'm going to start with Sherry. Will you tell us a little bit about what resiliency means and how can one learn to be resilient?
Sure, thank you. I'm so happy to be here and part of this important conversation. So the actual definition of resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from stress. What I've noticed in the past 8 months, though, with my clientele is I've had so many clients coming in, obviously, like many of us in the mental health world, in distress, not only from the pandemic, but also with a sense of shame and guilt that they weren't doing a good enough job being resilient. And my party line has been pretty consistent for the past 8 months of inviting my clients to lower the threshold for perfection, to recognize that we are in this collective shared traumatic experience and we're not in the clear yet. And that when we get to lower our expectations for how we're doing it right now, it gives us a lot of wiggle room to sort of just be expressing our emotions and not being so perfect in whatever realm we are. Really, the hope is that when we do finish the pandemic, because it will end someday, that we get to look back and grow from it rather than it defining us into the future. And that's really resiliency. And I would say the creative part and the art part for me with my clientele is that I often see people at their very worst. They're coming in and their very low points in their lives, and bringing creativity into the mental health realm through visual arts or creative endeavors is often the way out, where people can conceptualize their problems in an almost physical way, in a visual way. And even I had several clients submit art for this particular show. And even the idea of having something that has a beginning, a middle, and an end are so important in a time period that doesn't seem to have an ending. So recreating miniature versions of something like tangible, it is almost in itself a way of exhibiting resilience in a messy way. So thank you for asking that.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry. Does anybody else have any comments on the resiliency factor?
I really love what you said, Sherry. I just think it's so important to give people that kind of permission to have the emotions they're having and kind of not beat ourselves up for the place that we're at, you know, especially after this long period of time when I think many of us thought we would be through this already, and we're not. And, you know, you compound that with holidays and election and all kinds of other things, and it's difficult.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes people are reaching for books that perhaps are outdated because they're about really resiliency or self-help, and they're like, oh, I'm not living up to what this book is telling me I should be doing. And like, this book was not written during a pandemic or with the things that we are dealing with as humans right now. So just lowering that threshold is so important.
Yeah, I definitely think giving ourselves a little grace, because nobody, has really experienced this before. So we're all learning together. And I would just say extending that to our kids as well. You know, they may not have a full understanding of what's going on. And so they're trying to figure out and maybe responding to stress that parents are experiencing. So just kind of, extending that, thinking about that resiliency piece with them as well is important.
So Brittany, as a creator and an artist in the Resilience Reflection We're Building exhibition, what ways have creating art shaped your own mental health journey as a creator or as an observer?
Yeah. I want to mention first that artistic practice on your own is not necessarily a form of like therapy. Especially in this time, in the middle of the pandemic. I don't want to deter people from seeking help from a professional. But in my personal life, dedicated practice, it definitely helps improve my mental health, helps me focus and find structure day to day. It's a tool I use to express certain emotions or feelings, ideas I have or problems I'm working through. Helps me stay organized in my thoughts, and yeah, I use my art practice every day just to help stay grounded.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for mentioning that, your art practice is not necessarily therapy on your own, and that it's okay to seek help from professionals. I think that's very important, especially in this time. Susan, can you talk a little bit to what's different about mental health right now during this pandemic than in other times?
Yeah, I think, what we all have different ways that we cope with stress and manage different coping strategies. And so I think that's the thing that's different. Unfortunately, right now, some of those opportunities are just not available, or they're not so safe, where we might get together with a group of friends to just talk about how we're doing in our lives. And we can still do that in this way, like Zoom or FaceTime, but it's not feeling quite the same. There may be things like going to the gym that someone's not comfortable with, or for me, I like to just go shopping, even if I don't buy anything, just walk around and look at stuff and get ideas. And I'm more reluctant to do that at the moment. So those kind of things that we're having to find different ways. We were talking earlier about our own kids or other opportunities that we might have individually for art specifically that you can do at home. So that's a really nice thing, but we're just having to find different ways. And as exhausted as many of us are right now, figuring out new ways to manage can feel like a chore. And so it's nice to have other people provide us ideas that we can consider and look for different opportunities and kind of get those creative juices flowing in ways that work for us to take care of ourselves. We probably now more than many other times really need to pay attention to how we're feeling and how we're doing, and tune into that so that we can know what we need for ourselves and what the people around us need, and try to recognize that and take the time to take some action, whether that's big or small.
Yeah. Erin, do you have anything to tag on to that? specifically talking about self-care and coping and what the difference is between those two?
Sure. So when we're talking about the difference between self-care and coping, so coping skills, those are tools or skills that we can use to help manage and navigate stressful situations, or when we're just feeling very overwhelmed by our emotions. Those are things that we can use in the moment to help us kind of get through that stressful situation and move beyond that. So kind of depending on the situation, it could be, if you're feeling kind of stressed at work, maybe you can just take a break, step away from the computer. I know we've all been on the computer a lot the past few months, and maybe just do some breathing. Close your eyes, try to do some mindfulness, feel your breath. Maybe if you are able to, just taking a quick break, stepping outside. So again, those skills that we can use in the moment, those are coping to kind of help us move past that. Self-care is very important. We talk to our staff and to our clients about this a lot all the time. But those are healthy, deliberate activities that you can plan and that you should do on a consistent basis to help promote positive mental health, your emotional health, and physical well-being as well. So if you do these things consistently and set aside time to do those, they can help to relieve and even hopefully prevent stress and help you maintain optimal wellness in all aspects of your life. So it is important if you can. I know our lives and our schedules are very busy, but trying to create a schedule to block off time each week or maybe a little bit of time each day to do something that you enjoy, something that can help you to relax. I think art really plays well into this, setting aside time to maybe do some drawing or some painting. I know each day we try to have art supplies out for our daughter so that she can kind of, engage in that, and then we can kind of bond and connect together doing that as well. So again, trying to set aside a little bit of time to do those activities that can help you feel positive about yourself, help you feel successful, and just kind of shutting out the outside stuff is very important.
Yeah, thank you, Erin. As a practicing artist, and I'm sure Brittany can speak to this, finding ways to take care of yourself is super important. And like you said, Erin, art plays a big part of that in a lot of people's lives, or even just making something or creating something. It could be baking, it could be, anything really. So Sherry, I just have a question. Do you have any kind of art therapy related examples of how someone can use art to practice self-care?
Sure. And I'll just add to what everyone is saying about this time period is that I'm often inviting people into saying, like, if you're feeling A-okay right now, that's not mental health, that's actually mental illness. If you're feeling completely off, that's a sign of mental health, because we are living in strange times and we should all be feeling a little bit off. Again, I'll go back to my idea of creating smaller projects that have a beginning, a middle, and end. I actually have a blog that I've offered a lot of things kind of chronologically as the pandemic wore on. It's called arttherapy365.com. I've got lots of ideas on there. I've gotten really interested in tiny art, because when we make tiny art, or small things, we can throw it away if we don't like it. But I would encourage people to think small rather than something gigantic. Even tiny little canvases or tiny little things as we're moving into the holidays, of even thinking of like, oh, you can make a tiny bookmark or a tiny artist trading card or something small that, again, like Erin and Susan said, to capture the emotions that we're feeling is a great way to sublimate our feelings into our art. If that's helpful. Or if you want some more specific things, I'm happy to give some very specific directives too.
If you would like, I mean, I think we have time.
Yeah, and I would say even just like if anyone could think of sort of like, I've got some blank, I don't know, some cards, like some index cards here are a great size, or like the size of a trading card, of creating even how you want to do what you want to do maybe in the next few months. And I've sort of also been helping people, because time feels out of control, perhaps narrowing down windows of time so that we could wrap our head around like, wow, from now until December 31st, that's a chunk of time I can relate to, because that's the end of 2020. And perhaps I might make some art. I've got a card right here. Might make some art maybe I don't know, some things that I hope to accomplish, or some things that I might want to do, maybe in self-care, or drawing it out, or even if you're not artistic, just writing words. Or actually, now that I'm looking at this, even creating like an affirmation of just something positive, finding a positive quote or something that is validating your current experience, can be helpful just to have it around, if that's like an easy to reach idea of materials that we've got, most of us have around the house.
Yeah, thank you. So Susan, do you want to talk about how will people know when feelings are within the typical range and when to seek professional help? So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, as we've been saying, I think it is to be expected that we're all having some challenges right now. And so I don't want people to feel, overly alarmed if they are feeling higher degree of anxiety in particular. And when to get professional help, you don't have to hit this magic threshold or line. It's partly about what you desire and what you're open to doing or trying for yourself. I think if someone is reaching a point where they're really struggling to manage the basic things that they need to do in their life, and I think of those things as, are you able to function pretty okay? Maybe not at your best, but are you taking care of your hygiene? Are you able to eat meals? Are you sleeping reasonably well most of the time? Maybe not all the time. Are you able to get tasks done, like your work tasks or managing kids, those kind of things? If you're able to do that, you're probably doing pretty okay, but that doesn't mean that professional help might not still be very beneficial to you to kind of put you in a better place. But if you're really struggling with those things, then I would say you probably should really consider some of that professional help. And certainly Erin and Sherry jump in with other thoughts there. But again, I don't want to discourage people from getting help until they're at this, high, really critical level. Any time is okay to do that. And at the same time, again, validating that we're all probably feeling not quite our well selves that we might feel in a different time. And that's acceptable and normal.
I think it's super important to normalize that, everybody is probably feeling this way, and it's not just you, and you're not alone. And I just wanted to plug in real quick the Johnson County Mental Health Center, their crisis hotline. It's 24/7. So, if you or a loved one is having any issues, or if you're feeling like it's just, really hard on you, their crisis line is 913-268-0156. And we can post that in the comments of this video, just so it's there and that people know that that's open and an option. So before we kind of wrap up for the day, I want to go back and have everyone talk a little bit about what one little bit of wisdom you would like to leave with people today. Do we want to start with Brittany? If you want to maybe speak a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, I would like to go back a little bit and talk about the self-care versus the coping skills, and how art can be used for both. I think that art in all forms has been proven to ease the mind and enhance brain function. And when I think of that, I think a lot about meditation, and how meditation, when practiced regularly, can be a really helpful self-care tool. So in that way, I think when you develop that regularly practice, it can help with self-care. And when I think about using art as a coping skill, I think about when you're really stressed or you're really upset and you don't know what to do, just picking up a pencil or guitar or paintbrush and just getting that energy out. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad or, you know, just getting it out and getting that energy out, I think, is a great way to help relax.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's also very important to let people know that if you are, going to pick up a pencil or a paintbrush or create something, that it doesn't have to be finished. It doesn't have to be perfect. And there aren't any expectations on what you are supposed to be making or what people think you should be making. It's about you and about how you connect with your feelings. And it's just so important that people know that it's really just how you want to make it. And so Erin, is there anything that you want to add?
I was just going to say, I really think for kids, art can be a huge asset for coping skills because, especially for those younger ones and even for the older ones too, they don't always know how to verbalize how they're feeling. So if they have some things available like crayons, markers, stickers, Play-Doh, just to kind of, like Brittany said, get that energy out, I think that's huge. I think it can really help to calm them down. But also, they can draw like how they're feeling. If they're not able to say, I'm feeling sad right now, or I'm feeling angry, I think getting that expression out on paper can really be very telling and insightful for, for parents kind of understanding their kids' perspective of things. So I always think it's great for people to, have like a little area that's very easily accessible for their kids to just go to. They don't have to ask. They can just go get out whatever they feel like they need to at the moment. And I think, and like I said before, I think that can really be a good bonding thing together too. Like if they're able to let you sit there with them and kind of, and eventually when they can talk through it, I think that is very positive.
Yeah. And I think if people are struggling with getting those resources of, being able to have supplies out, you can always reach out to the Arts Council of Johnson County, and we will connect you to resources to help you ensure that you have the materials that you need to do that. So Sherry, anything?
Yes, I will piggyback on what Erin just shared. And what we're learning in the trauma field about really processing through and healing from trauma is that trauma really often doesn't have words with it. And so art is essential, or any kind of creative expression is essential for being able to identify what it is, especially when we're in it in real time, which we all are in a traumatic experience through this in real time. And so that ability to capture on paper or in a creative way what doesn't have words can be the beginning of making sense of a very messy time. I also want to speak quickly to this coping tools that we're talking about. And I don't know if other people have noticed, I kind of noticed a trend, and many of my colleagues did as well, that maybe in May, we started seeing people leaning back into old, poor coping tools. I saw a lot of substance abuse relapses, a lot of self-harming of people that had come a really long way in their healing. And when they started exhibiting those poor coping tools, they thought that they were all the way back down, having wasted all their time in therapy and went right back down to where they were. But I and many of my colleagues also felt like we had to validate, like, hey, this is a hard time. Sometimes we do reach for those old coping skills, but we can replace them with more positive coping skills. And perhaps if you have been exhibiting poor coping skills in this process, maybe that is a time to reach out for therapy, as you asked Susan. So that might be something to think about. But just to reassure any viewers that if you are exhibiting poor coping skills, it doesn't mean you have gone back to square one. It means you perhaps need some reminders or some outside ideas for more positive coping skills. But this is a hard time.
Yeah. Thank you, Sherry.
Yeah.
Susan, do you have anything?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is we've been talking a lot about just normalizing, mental health, and I think equalizing it too with our physical health. If I had migraines, I would go to the doctor and get some help for that. So if you're kind of on the fence of, gosh, should I should I seek out some therapy or other kind of assistance, then I'd say go for it. You deserve it. And like we said, kind of over and over, this is a difficult time. So take care of yourself in whatever way feels right to you. And there's a lot of help out there, a lot of great providers in our community that are willing to help you out.
Well, I just want to say thank you again to our panelists for joining us today. Are there any last minute thoughts of anything that we didn't cover or something we covered that you want to add on to? I just want to make sure everybody has their thoughts and voices heard.
I might add one more quick thing. Just if cost is a barrier for you, there are definitely resources available for many different kinds of providers that can offer services low cost or no cost. So give us a call. You can call that crisis line, or you can call us during our daytime hours, and we can help connect you with resources. So if you're worried, I can't go do that because I don't have the finances to do it, please don't let that be a barrier, and we'll help walk you through that.
Great, thank you. All right, well, thanks again to our panelists. Thank you to Johnson County Mental Health Center and Sherry at Heartland Therapy and Brittany for joining us today. This video will be posted on our YouTube and on our Facebook, so it's rewatchable. And I hope that everybody has a great day and a happy Thanksgiving. And with that, we will sign off.